ratio.
Yeah, so what does that mean? What is the debt service ratio?
If your mortgage is $1,000, your rent has to at least be $1,250 or more.
Yep.
At a 1.
Alright. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Generation H! Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like button. Today we are sponsored by Peak Property Management. And we're going to talk about the BRRRR.
Buy and hold, baby.
So the owner of Peak provided us with this awesome new place. So we're using the whiteboard. And so use Peak Property Management, guys.
You got that?
But today we're going to be talking about the BRRRR strategy. And what does the BRRRR strategy stand for, Daryl?
Buy.
Renovate.
Rent.
Rent.
Repeat.
Refinance.
Refinance.
Oh,
get him out of here.
Disqualified.
Alright, so it stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And it's a really good way to scale your business a lot. It's a lot more quicker than putting 20% down on every rental property you have, because then you run out of cash real quick. This way it lets you recycle that cash, which is how we all do it actually, and that's how we grow so many units and get so many rentals, is because we typically never just put 20% down. We buy a fixer-upper, and then we get all that cash back out once we refinance it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over one of my properties that I did just recently, actually, in the last 6 months, and I'm going to explain the numbers and how I was able to, at the end of the day, get the property for free. Actually, I got paid to get this property, because at the end of the day, it appraised for more.
Somebody paid you to get a house?
Yeah, so the bank actually paid me to own this property. And not only that, Daryl, it cash flows too. So I get paid every month by the tenant, as well as at the end of when I was done with it, I got paid. Which is it's a pretty awesome strategy that anyone could do. Nothing special about it, but
You have to find good deals.
Yeah.
That's the only special.
Just, find the good deals and fix them up, and make sure you're super pinpointing your ARV is like what it'll appraise for at the end,
And your interest rates.
And your interest rates. Yeah.
If you didn't watch our last video, episode 11, we talked about interest rates and how that affects your buying power or your refinance power.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically what happened is I found a property here in Churchill for $76,000. The way I got that property was from a wholesaler, and basically they brought the property to me, and I said I'd pay $76,000. So we closed on the property. It needed a lot of work when I bought it. So it took about 4 months to renovate it, but at the end of the day, we put about $74,000 in renovations. That $74,000 does include holding costs, so that's interest that I'm paying to the hard money lender, which was about $1,200 every single month that I was holding the property, plus taxes and insurance. And it also includes front-end closing costs. A lot of people don't add that to their numbers. It costs about probably $4,000 to $5,000 just to initially close on the property to own the property. So after that, after I renovated it, I went ahead and put it on Zillow, rented it out, put it up for $1,400 a month. We were getting a crazy amount of applicants at that price, and we ended up renting it within a week, got a lease signed. Everything was good with that. And then I went to a bank. And what the bank will do is when you're done with the property and it's all rented out, it's a cash flowing property. The bank will actually say, okay, how much is it rent for? And you'll actually get approved based on what it rents for. And there is banks that you don't need good credit, you don't need the greatest tax returns or the greatest job. They'll actually go and give you a loan based on how the asset performs. So basically, they see it's renting for $1,400, and they'll give you a loan up to $1,000 a month. Basically, that's how it works. Yep. Whatever the interest rates are, equal.
I was going to say, most banks, they're about, what, 1.25, 1.15 debt service ratio?
Yeah, so what does that mean? What is the debt service ratio?
If your mortgage is $1,000, your rent has to at least be $1,250 or more.
Yep.
At a 1.15-ish.
Yep. So that's very, very important. So that's questions to ask your bank too, is what's your debt service ratio? Another good question is, what's your LTV? How much will you be able to pull out based on the appraisal? Some banks do 70%, some 75%, and sometimes if you're lucky, you can find banks that do 80%.
And some banks will take out operating expenses, other banks won't.
Yeah.
It just depends, right? Some will take out 30% just off the top. Even if you self-manage, even if you do everything, doesn't matter, they'll still expense 70%. and that's going to influence what your
get.
debt service coverage ratio is. Others will do 20%, 15%, whatever.
Yeah, so all banks work differently. There's some banks that are more conservative than others.
Yep.
Some banks are hard to get, or like hard to meet that criteria. So definitely call around when you're doing the refinance process. And I would recommend doing this before you even buy the property, just to get an idea of what you'll be getting and what interest rate you'll be paying and how much loan to value you'll be getting. Meaning, if it's a 75% loan to value, if it appraises for $100,000, they'll give you $75,000 as a loan. So in this case, I went to the bank. I did a couple calls. I found the best interest rate and best terms at 75% loan to value, and debt service ratio made sense with the $1,400 rent. So I went with this bank. The property that I thought was actually gonna appraise for like $190 ended up appraising for $220. Yeah, so I was super surprised. I did take out all full 75% of it. Carlos would argue otherwise. He doesn't like debt as much at 4% interest, but that's him.
It's the devil. It's the devil. It's the devil. I believe in Jesus. Jesus Christ.
So specifically on this interest rate, I think I got 4.25 at the time. They're a lot higher now. I did buy down the rate, so I had to pay an extra couple points. And what's a point, Daryl? What does a point mean?
So a point is 1 percentage point of whatever that loan is going to be for. So in this case, $165,000 loan, 1 point would cost you $1,650.
Yep, exactly.
So to buy it down, he had to pay an extra $1,650.
Yeah, and that's another great question to ask your lender up front before you go through all the paperwork and everything, because you'll get to the closing table and you'll see an extra $6,000 in costs. You'll be like, what the heck just happened?
Yeah, and sometimes they'll bake that in. They'll say, oh, yeah, our interest rate is 5%. And you're like, oh, okay, that's great. Yeah. And then you go into the fine print and it's because they make you buy 3%. Down 3%. Yeah. So just be careful about that. Yeah.
So for this, it appraised for $220. I pulled out the full 75%, which was a $165,000 loan. Basically, that means the bank gave me $165,000 cash up front. As a check, but basically just right on my bank account. Yeah. I paid off the existing loan, which was $100,000. I borrowed a little more than $76,000, so I borrowed $100,000 when I first bought the property. So at the end of the day, I got some cash out at closing. But the sweet thing is, I'm all into this property for $150,000. The bank gave me a loan for $165,000, so right then and there, I'm already cash positive $15,000. Now you'll take out maybe $7,000 for back-end closing costs, so take out $7,000 from that number, and then I'm left with $8,000 and a property that cash flows $400 a month. The interest and principal and interest in tax and insurance on this property is actually $1,017. So I'm not cash flowing a crazy amount. If something goes wrong with the roof or something, it'll wipe the cash flow away. But we did all that up on the front end. So when we renovated the property, we replaced the roof. We got all new mechanics, all new HVAC. So hopefully we have a good 10 years of no big repairs on that property. So cash flow's $383. So I got all my cash back out, and I actually got a little extra out. And I cash flow every month, and then what I'm going to do with that extra cash is actually just go ahead and find another property to buy, and repeat. That's the 4th R. But the sweet thing about this process is you don't have any cash stuck in the deal, which what makes the BRRRR amazing.
And not only that, but you actually made money. You got an extra $380 a month. So not only did you make $8,000. You made $12,000 in your very first year of owning that house.
And the cool thing
plus your appreciation.
Yeah, this number also most likely every year is going to go up at least $50 to $100. Yeah. And so that makes this spread a lot bigger in the future.
And that's tiny. That's less than 5% rates. Yeah. And right now the average I think is like 8% or something.
Yeah.
So
8% that's just being conservative with the 5%.
And I know some that's 10%. They've been jumping theirs up 10-15% on their rent every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, the biggest highlight.
Oh yes.
We didn't
even talk about that. That's not even accounted for is
that's a great
equity.
Point.
That's why I don't like having big loans, because I love equity.
Yeah.
And he's walking away with $8,000 cash, $383,000 a month. To your point, about $4,000 a year. So that's 12, and he's walking with a $55,000 equity position in that property that he's going to own, that he's probably not going to have to maintain for 5, 7 to 10 years because he's been super thorough about the $74,000. So that, I mean, it really is an infinite return, right? Like, there's no money out of pocket. Equity, $8,000. He's just going to go in and just repeat the whole process over.
And the beautiful part, every time they pay this number goes up. So now your equity goes up $500-$600 every single month over month. Plus you made this. Plus you made this. It's crazy.
So and this was done. So despite the market, this was done how long ago?
I think the refinance was just finished about 6 months ago.
Okay.
So the whole process took you how long to get to this?
So this whole process took me about 4 months, this whole thing. So in 4 months, I actually added $55,000 to my net worth, plus another $8,000 to my net worth, and I get $400 a month cash flow every month. So in 4 months, that's how you can really increase your net worth. I know people don't talk about net worth that much, but I love talking about it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's not the protein, it's not the creatine, it's the BRRRR. That's how you so big. You see this?
It's from BRRRR, guys.
It's from BRRRR.
It's from BRRRR, guys.
Buy and hold. That's how you make up.
So yeah, no, this is a good example because I mean these still happen even nowadays. They still happen. You just have to be really diligent about the deals that you find, but they do still happen. So even in the height of all the market and everybody being like, "Oh my God, everything's so expensive," Dylan was still able to find something that was fairly
and I don't know
priced.
about you guys, but I'm doing 2 of them right now. I'm sure you're doing one and you're doing one too. So these deals happen every day. No matter if it's a good market, bad market.
Yeah, I actually am in the middle of refinancing one right now that's probably going to net me about the same, and it's going to cash flow about probably just a tad bit more, but same thing. And I still bought it in this kind of a market. So it's just about being very diligent. A lot of money is made here, but then once you get a more efficient, this number might be a little bit higher at the beginning for most people.
Right.
But as time goes on, you will become more and more efficient. You'll have floor guys that you depend on, electricians, whatever. This number will get better because they know that you're going to give them consistent business. And then you'll get a lot better at being able to quantify this, being able to plug those numbers in before you even start it, so that when you do this and you cash flow that amount, it's not a surprise.
Exactly.
Right? Not a surprise, and then you can actually walk out with an 8,000. It's not a guessing game. It shouldn't be a guessing game. But if you do happen to,
this is the only guesstimate right here.
It is
the appraisal. That's the only guess.
And sometimes you can get screwed on that if you get a bad appraiser. Like it can fluctuate between 10 to 30,000.
But I will say that regardless whether you came out of pocket or came like they put an extra $8,000 in your pocket, or you had to bring to the table $16,000. That is still
less than 20%.
Less than 20% that you would have had. 20% of 220 is what, $44,000 plus closing costs. So you'd have been out of pocket like $50,000 for this. But if you only had to put in $16,000, so like a reverse of $24,000, you still would have been in better position.
Think about the old school way of thinking, putting 20% down. You would have to make a lot of money to own 10 rental properties at that pace.
Now
you can own 10 rental properties in 1 year because they paid you $80,000. Now, say it's even reversed and you owed $80,000 or $8,000 at the end of it.
That's fine.
That's a win. That is a win.
I'll take a cash flowing property for $8,000.
No kidding.
55 in equity.
You made half of it back.
You made more of the 8,000 you had to leave in a year,
and the 55 in equity.
And the 55 in equity. Don't forget the equity, and don't forget the tax benefits.
And you don't pay taxes. You don't pay taxes on this money that you borrow from the bank.
And this income probably didn't get taxed because of the depreciation as well.
Look at our tax video if you haven't already.
Video 9. But we've all done this. We've all mastered it. We're doing it on a consistent basis, probably on a monthly basis. We're refinancing. So once you do one, you'll realize it's really pretty easy to do. It's pretty easy. The thing is that this always changes. It's like anything that you're learning. Like, you always have to be ahead of the curve, talking to new banks, new lenders, new electricians, new everything to make sure that you're on the best side.
The numbers change every time, but the process never changes.
The process
the
never
same
changes.
every single time. Only thing that changes are these numbers here. And they either go up, down, sideways, but when you're doing your due diligence, run this scenario.
Yeah.
And if you're okay with leaving $8 grand in it, do it.
Yeah.
If you're okay with taking 8,000 back, do it. Like for you, you're completely different than Dylan.
Yeah.
Carlos, he'd rather keep that 8,000 in the deal versus Dylan would rather have it in his pocket.
I mean,
and I'm in the middle. Sometimes I do that, and sometimes I leave it in. Just now, I left 20,000 in a deal I'm burning, but I didn't need the cash.
Yeah.
So it was a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's BRRRR. I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Yeah. No, I think we covered it
that's
all.
really a good gloss. Anything else?
No, that's... try it.
Generation Ace!